Tell me the story, because it's a wonderful story, about how you actually got the audition for that part.
For many, many months, I tried to get an audition for the play, and I was just beginning in the theater. And I couldn't get an audition. Wouldn't see me. My agents couldn't get me in. So I found out that Dr. Jonathan Miller, who was directing the production, was going to be giving a series of lectures in New York on the afterlife of plays at Alice Tully Hall. So I got myself pairs of tickets to go. And I went very nervously. And he gave this great, amazing, fantastic lecture. And the place was packed. And I just kept thinking through the show, you know, how am I going to meet him? I don't want to go backstage and go, you know, hi, I'd like to be in your play. I thought it's got to happen in the right way. And sitting next to me was a rather elderly citizen. And she was asleep through most of the lecture. And I was just thinking and sort of looking around. And I noticed sticking out of her handbag was an invitation to a cocktail reception in honor of Dr. Jonathan Miller immediately following. And I thought to myself, you know, she's tired. So I pinched it and then very quickly moved seats. And I went to this cocktail reception and you know, walked in with my invitation. And Dr. Miller was sitting at a table with Kurt Vonnegut on one side and Norma Mailer on the other, and Mr. and Mrs. Moneybags and Mr. and Mrs. Filthy Rich. And I thought, well, there's no way I can get over there. But at one point, Kurt Vonnegut got up and went to the men's room, and he didn't come back. So I beelined for this chair next to Dr. Miller. And I sat down and just started chatting to him about how great his lecture was. And he made the great opening line to me of, so what brought you to my lecture? I was very curious what brings young people to my lectures. And I said, well, oddly enough, Eugene O'Neill brought me. And he said, is he here? I've always wanted to meet him. And I told him the story of how I'd been trying for about 8 months to get an audition, unsuccessfully. And he wrote down the hotel that he was at and gave me his card and said, get to me directly. And 2 days later, I had my first audition for the play. And then about 5 months later, I auditioned for the play with Jack Lemmon, because he had approval over the cast of who would play his sons.
And he was your hero, too, wasn't he?
He was a big hero of mine. I actually met him when I was 13. And I'll never forget this audition, because we did about 4 scenes together. And I wanted this part so badly. And I was just relentless with Jack. I just toppled over his lines, and I drove through his pauses. And you could literally feel something started with us at that moment. And at the end of the audition, he walked up to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, you know what, I never thought I'd find the rotten kid, but you're it. Jesus Christ.